It was pretty low.
Garth said hesitantly. What exactly do you want from me to do this magic trick? A fingernail.
Oh, he is here.
A fingernail.
Excuse
Anyone
you, I'm
who
the
did
kindest
will
lawyer.
I don't see how that will... No, I'm sure you don't, Mr. Cameron. But that wasn't the agreement, was it? Well,
I wish I could get some mana jugs.
It is only a fingernail, after all. Okay, it's a deal, he said at last. Daniel drew a pair of nail scissors from the same drawer.
Don't look at the chat no more. You're getting the skulls thrown at.
Garth put his hand.
Imagine your power was to throw a flaming version of your actual head at someone. That's what the skeleton's doing this.
He caught the tiny crescent in midair, then dropped the clippers back into his desk. Go on then, Mr. Cameron. 10 times, all tails. Garth raised his eyebrows and flipped the coin once, twice, 3 times, all tails. He checked beneath the desk for some kind of magnet and found nothing but rotted wood. Garth flipped the coin again, 4, 5, 6, 7 more times. He flipped it differently each time, but it always came up tails. He checked to see if Daniel had somehow exchanged it for a 2-sided coin and was disappointed. On the 11th flip, it came up heads. Impossible. All thoughts of getting groceries and returning home to his wife were gone. Daniel laughed. What about the dice? Garth inquired. Ah, well, that will require the rest of your fingernails, I think.
What is this?
Say to land 6, 10 times in a row? Garth could hardly believe his ears, but out came the scissors and away went his nails.
He cut his fingernails off for this guy? I wasn't paying attention.
6. By the time the final die settled, Garth felt like a man in a dream. It was, of course, a brilliant magic trick. It's a trick, then, isn't it? Daniel sighed. We can go on all day, Mr. Cameron. You can bring me dice or coins of your own, but then we do it with your toenails. You can have the room analyzed for devices if you'd like. Or the easiest way, we could bring up the stakes to the point where faking is impossible. Like what? You tell me.
What a scary story to
you name something
put you to
want,
sleep to.
I'll make it happen if you pay the price. And what exactly is the price based on? Gain.
Asshole tax.
The more that's gained,
you let me in,
the more that is lost.
And I'll help you out.
Ah. Garth looked around the dusty room for ideas and found none. Then, at last, it came to him. My groceries, he said. Make them appear right here. Everything on the list. As he spoke, his hand
does it have to spell Aldret?
pocket, found the list and scrunched it up as though he were afraid Daniel might read it through his coat. Daniel simply nodded, and his eyes rolled up for a minute, as if calculating a few minor equations.
Oh wow! Sick, thanks for all your money! You're so fucking unique! Everyone now knows how fucking sick you are! Are these thanks, dude! I'll just wait for their reaction.
And only the very tip, you understand. Almost.
Losers, that's what you get, loser.
Garth put his hand on the table. This would be the final experiment. And if it didn't work, well, he thought the tip of a finger would be worth it for the show.
Fuck, jump scares, fuck. Yeah, now you see. Fuck, fuck.
And took hold of his pinky.
It made me jump, so fuck you guys. It was very loud.
The urge to pull away. Daniel whipped the scalpel through the end of his finger with lightning, frightening.
You're all welcome.
Garth,
you have G Haven to thank.
Watched it, waiting for the instant to pass. A shiny oval of blood now sat where his fingerprint used to be. Well, I suppose that wasn't so bad. Daniel gestured behind Garth. For a moment, Garth didn't want to turn around.
Yo, fuck
He
this
was
story.
certain there was nothing there. He'd been tricked by a sadistic madman, and who's to say Daniel wouldn't attack him as soon as he turned his head?
Oh, it's this.
But he turned, and the groceries were there in a neat pile of plastic bags just by the door.
By Otis Diary. Ah, fuck.
Breathless, he pulled his shopping list from his pocket and touched every item while Daniel chuckled. When Garth was done, he shook so
it was
badly
Mar-
he fell back into the seat.
Ru-
He didn't dare take his eyes from the bags, as though they
Beauregard.
might disappear at any moment.
The Brave or something?
Are you satisfied, Mr. Cameron? Daniel said, with only the slightest hint of impatience present in his voice. Now Garth understood the shelves in the front of the shop. They were achievements bought from this man.
Mega
He must have
Magic?
copied them as a way to advertise. Or perhaps, he thought, so a customer
I just
could
gun it
walk
over?
the shelves,
Yeah, fuck
choose
you.
an achievement, and buy it using a
Loser.
piece of himself.
I'll take the pain.
Garth's mind reeled with the possibilities.
Yes, it's worth
The
$30. What is it?
potential of what he could accomplish
Oh,
became
Wasteland?
overwhelming.
Yeah, tell me good games.
That's it.
That's it.
I have it. My whole life. Everything I've ever wanted. It can all be mine. In a strange ecstasy, Garth took off his left shoe and sock.
What the fuck is
back
going
in the
on? He's
chair
giving this
and
guy
slammed
fingernails?
his
and
foot
shit?
on the table. What can I get for these? He asked, wiggling his toes. Daniel threw his head back and clapped his hands, laughing with seemingly genuine amusement.
Genuine.
Now what talking my language, sir? He stood up and walked over to the brown curtain. In one easy motion, Daniel swept the curtain aside. Garth saw a surgeon's armory hanging from pliers to cleavers, razors to bone saws, everything one would need to dismantle a human body into 1,000 pieces. For a second, Garth felt terrified. But then he remembered.
You can just, you can just run across. Yeah, I'm the best. Yeah.
The man had honored everything thus far, and while what he wanted as payment was bizarre, no one could say he hadn't delivered.
Oh,
Daniel
wow, yeah.
took something from the wall that looked like a brand new pair of hedge clippers. He set the clippers
Isn't
on the
there a
table,
more economical
folded
way
his
you could have
hands
been
in
telling
front
the
of
story?
him, smiling widely. Yes, Daniel said. There's plenty you could get with the toes on this foot and plenty more with the whole foot. But it is better.
Oh, you're defeated.
You name you want, and then I name my price. Garth noticed how clean and new the tool seemed, gleaming
Yeah,
in the
maybe we're
room's
done with
dim
this.
light.
No, continue.
All
You'll regret
right,
not trying your
then,
hardest.
Garth said, his mind spinning
load
with
that.
ideas.
Yep.
It should be something decent, he thought, something with toes. You must keep in mind, Mr. Cameron, that I've been quite lenient with my prices so far. Not too much, but do not think
Good.
you can make your life perfect with a hand or a foot. Yes, of course, Garth nodded. It was sensible, after all. Didn't all salesmen do that? A test drive before you paid for the real thing?
Don't do it, Garth.
I would like
Fuck.
to win the lottery, he said slowly, knowing he was pushing his luck. The biggest one in the world.
Sturmgeist?
The biggest jackpot, whatever it is.
Don't fuck.
Daniel grinned and nodded thoughtfully. This I can do if I take all your toes. Garth stared.
Give me your dick.
His heart beat so hard he could feel a vein throbbing near his big toe. All of them? He asked.
Hang around here till you.
Yes, but the largest lottery in the world, that is in America, full of taxes. You would do better to take the English lottery. It would be easier to claim your prize, and the money you get is still 160 million pounds tax-free. That's 16 million pounds per toe. Daniel watched him patiently.
I know how many pounds per toe it is.
Garth turned and looked from the piles of shopping
Counting
bags
lottery toes was my first
at the
wish.
man.
Gerald.
I'll do it, he said, almost whispering. I'll do it.
I don't think he's a game genie at all. He
sooner
just
had he
happened to
said
have
the words
groceries to convince him.
did 3 of his toes disappear, and the pain struck him like an iron club.
Cutting his foot.
He fell from his chair, but Daniel kept one impossibly strong hand on his ankle
On his
as he
ass.
worked his way down his foot. The blades cut through the last 2 toes an instant before the clippers snipped shut. A terrible popping
so these don't level
accompanied
up
the
more?
departure of each, followed by the soft clicks of them landing on the wooden floor. Garth squeezed his eyes shut and let out a scream that must have rattled the front windows. In his agony, he
I
forgot
thought...
that he'd promised Daniel another 5 toes. Daniel didn't bother to take off Garth's right shoe, but instead, he walked around the table and cut right through it, severing all 5 toes in a straight line, and taking a good part of his foot as well. All of it fell onto the floor, a clunk of flesh and blood mingled with leather and fabric. For a long time, Garth did nothing but roll on the floor and scream. He blacked out once, and when he came to, he threw up.
Astro A40s. Are they always good?
As the pain became more manageable, he opened his eyes and focused on Daniel standing over him, chuckling. His
Why don't you,
face
Daniel,
shined
focus
from
on
a
Daniel?
thin sheen of sweat. Ah, now that was something, Mr. Cameron. You won't regret it, I promise you. And with that pledge, he took out a long rectangle of paper and pressed it into Garth's shaking hand. A lottery ticket. You now hold the winning numbers for next week's jackpot, sir. Congratulations. Good God, let me out of here. Let me out. Garth clutched his ticket and crawled toward the doorway. Don't forget your groceries, Daniel called after him. Garth wiped his mouth and attempted to stand. The absence of toes made it difficult to keep his balance. He noticed the trail of blood behind him, but the flow seemed to slow down surprisingly fast. He managed to
He's the
drag
one
his
with the
groceries
scepter.
all the way out the front door, but received no help from the sly and sharply dressed salesman. When Garth glanced over his shoulder...
Did he go into some fucking Payless shoe store?
Garth won the lottery the following Monday night, which was a good thing.
A very
because
convincing
the first thing
salesman.
he'd done after he'd returned
Talked
with
him
the
into giving him his
groceries
toes.
was leave his wife.
They're better fit,
He
really.
had wanted to do it for years, and was it
Oh, he
sweet
divorced his
to see her
wife?
sour face
Maybe don't talk over the story?
turned to gaping surprise. That moment was enough to pay him back for every evil word and threat she'd ever heaped upon him. For nearly 2 weeks, Garth laughed about his good fortune, using crutches to help him hobble on his toeless feet. The pain hardly bothered him at all, and people stared at him, yes, but he knew it wasn't the disability, it was the money. Already, he'd received phone calls from people he'd never met claiming to be long-lost relatives. He quit his job, telling all co-workers what he thought of them. He purchased a mansion on the edge of town. His new wardrobe consisted of nothing but $10,000 suits. His new car cost more than what most people pay for their homes. He purchased everything he ever wanted and lived the life he had always dreamed. But Garth still was not happy. All he could think about was the weedy little man in the shop and what he still had to offer. Eventually, desire got the better of him, and he decided to go back to see Daniel Samvilles. "Oh, Mr. Cameron," Daniel said, welcoming him with open arms. "I was afraid he would never return. You left so unhappily last time, you see. And I was also a little afraid I'd maybe given you too much. I've been thinking about
Okay,
you a lot,
hide.
actually, Garth said, shaking Daniel's hand. Is that so? Daniel asked. Well, why don't you sit and we can talk about it? It wasn't long before they struck a new deal. Garth gave a kidney for an IQ of 200, his entire right arm for an extra life, and his left eye and ear for the ability to understand, speak,
Garth Brooks.
and write
Blood gay.
every language. Next, he gave his teeth
Next
for the
time on
ability to
Ghosts.
charm any woman he wanted. That
That seems like a given.
painful.
You don't need a genie
The
for that. Get rid
worst
of your
part
teeth.
of the entire process was the enjoyment Daniel seemed to have while working with pliers. He shrieked with laughter all the while,
Every
dancing
dentist
around
is
a
working
half-conscious
for evil.
Garth. He spent most of his left leg on eternal wealth and gave his right for the ability to fly. Who
Sick.
needs legs when you could fly anyway? That one, Daniel told
The
him,
flying
would take
millionaire.
3 days to take effect, just like the language skills and irresistible charm.
What's Game Grumps?
They were all powerful abilities, he explained. It would take some time. At last, Garth had enough. Daniel propped him up in the far corner of the room, his right side, what was left of it, pressed up against the window. Blood pooled everywhere, but still he felt fine. That, Daniel assured him, was part of the deal. You felt the pain, but the damage quickly healed. Dead customers are not likely to come back after all, Daniel smiled. Garth suffered plenty
you.
of pain, and with each throb of agony, he knew he made the right choice.
I did right by
Nothing in
this.
the world could stop him. His life was made. In the matter of weeks, he would become the most powerful man alive, the richest,
Fucking
and the most
flying around,
charismatic.
seducing women.
He watched Daniel wipe the bloody tools clean and place them back behind the brown
I was always
curtain,
doing
humming
this.
as he went. When he finished, he walked over to Garth and shook his left hand heartily. Well,
Like
Mr.
Garth and
Cameron, he said, it's been excellent doing business with you. 3 days from now, the more extreme of your requests will be granted, but the others you possess as of this very second. Garth grinned back
You're
at
magic
Daniel,
already, but you'll get more.
fresh
son.
blood streaming down his chin. Thank you, Mr. Samuels.
Thank you.
What Daniel didn't know
What
was
he meant to say
that
was,
Garth was going to have most of what he'd lost replaced with expensive modern devices. And then, what had he really lost?
you can't trick
Even
Garth.
arms and legs could be replaced with machines. Yes.
Why
it
would you
will
need
be
to seduce any
brilliant,
woman when you can
Daniel
fucking
agreed.
fly?
Just be patient. Here, you can rest in my shop until the effects come into play. Just sleep a while, and when you wake, the world will be yours. Garth smiled gratefully, muttered another thank you, and then fell fast asleep. He dreamed he'd traveled the earth, rich and famous. He experienced every
It was all a
delicacy,
dream.
every adventure that the world had to offer. He dreamed of becoming a president, of stopping wars, and of becoming a legend. When he woke, he saw a long rectangle of gray sky above him. He sat up with much difficulty, using his stump to push himself against the wall. On either side were 2 moldy walls, an alleyway. Garth frowned. It was all very well if Mr. Sandbills hadn't wanted him lying in his shop, but had he really had to dump him like trash? He crawled like a lopsided tortoise to the end of the
lobster.
alleyway, disgusted
Oh,
by his
or that.
surroundings. Mold and garbage, he thought as he pushed along. All he needed was to flag down a taxi, get back to his mansion.
Yeah, why can't you just fly
Luckily,
it?
all of the bleeding had stopped, and his wounds proved to be healed.
We went for a test drive.
But when he reached the pavement, he realized that no taxi would pick him up in his current state. Everyone who saw him crossed the road or completely turned around and walked the other way. Garth tried asking a man for help, but his lack of teeth rendered words incomprehensible.
No.
The other man stared ahead and walked past.
I don't see anything.
Before dropping a few coins at his feet.
Lopsided tortoise.
Fool, Garth thought. I'm infinitely rich, not
I'm a millionaire. I don't need you.
When he turned back to the alleyway, his heart nearly stopped. Benny's butchery sat on one side, and Finnegan's family restaurant on the other. He was right where Mr. Sandals had left him. Only the shop had vanished. Garth wondered how long he'd been asleep. Obviously, less than 3 days, since he couldn't yet fly. He still had infinite wealth, a second life, and an IQ of 200. He just needed to get back to his mansion.
Oh, he did ask for smart?
No one would help him. For 3 days, he kept to the alleyway, begging and snatching the discard from Benny's and Finnegan's dumpsters, and waiting for his powers to arrive.
Wait for my powers? Just you wait.
His mind traveled to the things he would do when he received what he paid for. The first step would be having a shower and then a good meal. Then he'd charm a woman or two, and the thought made him laugh.
Ha ha ha.
Third day came to an end.
I will charm a bitch up. Ha ha ha.
So the fourth, and then the fifth. The truth settled in and began to beg in earnest. Garth remained in the alleyway, waiting for Daniel Sandals to come back and give him
Daniel
what he
Sandals
was owed. If you paid him enough coin and had a good ear for his toothless speech, you might hear a decent story in return. It's not a likely story, maybe, but it's a good one, and it even has a moral. Quit while you're ahead, Garth would say. A few fingers or O's and then leave forever. If you can do that, the world can be yours.
What? Okay, what?
Begging, Garth remained in the alleyway, waiting for Daniel Sandals to come back and give him what he was owed. If you paid him enough coin and had a good ear for his toothless speech, you might hear
IQ of 200. I actually thought he could fly.
It's not a likely story, maybe, but it's a good one, and it even has a moral. Quit while you're ahead, Garth would say. A few fingers or O's and then leave forever. If you can do that, the world can be yours.
A few fingers and toes. Oh, and then leave forever. Quit while you're ahead. I thought that was going to be a pun about you took your body and left. Okay, the stream is over. You got scared. Why? Why did that happen? Okay. Bye. Bye, Jorvolt.